and we will care for each other as the world around us unravels. When I first heard those words in the song we just heard, my first thought was, that is exactly what covenanting through transition means. Transition often feels to me like an unraveling, whether we choose the changes or they're forced upon us. Our life unravels, maybe a little, maybe a lot, and then we're left with a whole bunch of messy yarn to figure out what to do with. Of course, we would want to take care of each other in a time like that. We covenant to take care of each other in moments like that. And then my second thought was, that sounds way easier than it is. I know I find it much easier to take care of those I love when I feel grounded, when their world is unraveling and mine is not, or not so much at least. For example, I found it much easier to support my partner through transitions, change of job, starting grad school, her parent health scares, and the like, relatively easily. And this has been a two-way street. However, when we adopted a delightfully sassy 9-year-old in 2021, both our worlds started unraveling at the same time. Our relationship, how we saw ourselves, what we thought we were knitting, which could be perhaps represented as a soft, cozy scarf with a colorful design, began unraveling. We began to reshape it into something new. It began twisting and turning into no pattern we'd ever seen before. And our yarn was joined by our kids. Her own world was also dramatically unraveling and reforming, and she was randomly pulling at strings and tying knots to try and make herself some kind of safety net. Caught in this tangle, it became a bit more difficult to take care of each other. As we were stressed out trying to figure out how to become parents, from the seemingly impossible tasks like figuring out how we are supposed to work full-time between the hours of 9:30 and 2, to the millions of tiny details that you've never thought about until you become responsible for an elementary school child overnight. My partner and I were simultaneously trying to figure out how to take care of each other and their kid when we were exhausted, pretty clueless, and under extreme stress. Every time we thought we'd figured it out for like 5 minutes, something else we'd never considered popped up. Like last February, I picked up my daughter from school one day to discover she was very upset with me. When I asked her what was up, she was like, "Don't you know what day it is?" Truthfully, it took me a moment to figure out what day it was. Monday? I hazarded. No, it's Valentine's Day. Oh, I see. Initially, I felt really relieved that I had, in an unexpected moment of planning ahead a week or so earlier, I had picked up a small stuffy and a chocolate heart for her. I tucked it into a closet and forgot about it. Feeling confident I had the solution, my number one parenting fail, I clarify. Oh, you're upset because it's Valentine's Day. No, you didn't get me Valentine's gifts. Still convinced I had the solution, I assured her there was a little package for her at home and we could go and get it right now. Problem solved, right? No, you don't get it. Not for me. For the kids in my class. Everyone had gifts for the class except me. What? What kind of gifts? She opened her bag to show me her collection of little cards and bundles of candy and heart-shaped erasers and the like. And she said sadly, I didn't have anything to give to them. After consulting with a few other parents, we discovered that's a thing here. There was a class list provided a few days earlier, and we later found it mushed at the bottom of her bag. This moment was a small one, and relatively easily fixed with an apology and a reminder we were new at this whole parenting thing and we didn't know, and we promised to get her some gifts for next Valentine's Day. which reminds me, I should get on that. And it was one moment in an ocean of small and large moments of feeling caught off guard, of not knowing what to expect, of not knowing what to do, of feeling like I had failed. My top 10, not my finest moments in the last 3 decades easily happened in my first year with her. Of course, none of this was helped by adopting her in 2021, about halfway since this pandemic started. A time when things were constantly changing at work and in social life too. I don't need to remind you the number of times we had to pivot or try and figure out what the new normal was or is. Can we meet in person? Can we travel? Will school be cancelled? Should we wear masks? And 1,000 of other questions for every little decision. Things that were fairly easy to plan in the past became as elusive as picking lottery numbers. Much as it is hard for my partner and I to figure out how to take care of one another when we both feel like we're unraveling, when we are going through the most stressful time in our relationship, it is way harder when everybody else is maxed out too. We know the pandemic has not been the same for everyone. Some people have been significantly impacted much more than others, depending on where you live, what industry you work in, if you work, if you were sick, if you lost people that you were close to, if you have marginalized identities, and many more factors influence how you might have been affected. And while it's true for many people, there have been things that have been positive about the unfolding of the pandemic, including access to spaces that were previously difficult, unexpected collaborations, ability to work from home, ability to move to a preferred location, and maybe even avoiding traveling to work or family events that you didn't really want to go to. I know I'm not the only one. It's also true that almost everyone at some point has been negatively impacted, and some people continuously. Everyone has been hurt, has felt exhausted, has worried about their own or a family member's health, has wished for this to be over already. We have lost many things over the last 3 years. We have faced many transitions, and we have had little time to reflect and process what's happened. As the restrictions have been lifted in different places at different times, we have been increasingly pushed into returning as soon as possible, often in a frantic rush to return to some semblance of what we had before, though it will never be what we had before. Most of us have barely taken a beat to grieve what has been lost. We have all been a bit crispy at times. So how do we take care of one another when we are not at our best, when we are crispy? Our family therapist has frequently reminded us it's not about being perfect parents or never making mistakes. It's all about the repair, she likes to say. We are going to mess up. That is guaranteed. We will make mistakes. We will hurt one another. And we will show up and we will repair. And when we don't do that perfectly, we will repair the repair. And every time she reminds me of this, I feel like I can breathe a little bit deeper. This parenting journey has forced me to face what it means to live my values when things are difficult like no other. When I and those I love most are struggling to be their best selves at the same time. To lean on the faith, the hope that we will show up and we will repair and we will find our way. We will co-create something new, something that was unimaginable before. When I think how we could covenant with each other during these times of great transition and change in our world and in our UU movement, including the pandemic, the eighth principle work, the huge transition of religious professionals that Linda shared with us earlier, to name only some of them, I think it actually makes sense because we don't really need a covenant so much when things are going well, when we're all grounded and aware and being our best selves. We need a covenant to make space for our mistakes, our challenges, and to guide us towards repairing them. In many cases, this pandemic has shattered the illusion of our striving for perfection, our bringing our Sunday best, and that is good. So let us covenant to show up in our full humanity, even when we are messy, even when we make mistakes, even when we may have hurt someone, knowing that it doesn't make us bad people, it makes us human. Let us covenant to show up to repair what needs to be repaired, because we believe what truly breaks a covenant is not making a mistake, but turning away, ignoring the hurt we hold or the harm we cause. Let us covenant to show up with grace and compassion, and let the love and joy that comes from this work come through. Let us covenant to show up to share our grief when our hearts are broken by the destruction of the earth, by the pain of racism and other oppressions, by the seemingly unrelentless impact of this pandemic that we once thought might only last for a few weeks, by all the things that are uncontrollable and uncontainable. Let us covenant to take care of ourselves and each other as the world around us unravels.
Your grief for what you've lost. Your grief for what you've lost holds a mirror up to where you are so bravely.